Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of KickSaga. This is the show where I interview board game creators who are about to take their project to Kickstarter, and I'm going to interview them once before their project launches, and then again right afterwards to see, what they did to prepare, and then to learn what went right, what went wrong, what they learned, and to see what kind of the next steps are. And today I'm really excited to have on Paul Elpers, who his game is Gempire, Zarmund's Demands. And he's starting up a publishing company called Gemtime Games to publish this game. And I had the pleasure of playtesting it, and it's a lot of fun. It's a really great game. So I'm really looking forward to hopefully getting this in my hands soon. But we're going to interview him about the process of bringing this game to life and bringing it to Kickstarter. So, hey, Paul, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Matt. I'm really excited to get into this.
Cool. Me too. So why don't we kick things off by you just telling folks a little bit about yourself and what you got you into game design?
Oh, okay. That goes back a little while ago. I think I really started getting into playing these types of games. I would say, your kind of Catan gets you in to the world of these strategy games that you didn't know existed. And then you start venturing out. So you get the Small World, you get the Seven Wonders, you get the Agricola, and then you're like, oh, these are awesome. I've never seen anything like these. And I think I started playing those types of games with my brothers in high school. And we'd get together every Friday and we'd play a new one. My brothers would buy more of them, and then we would play more. And we were just enamored with them. And I think it was around one of my first couple years in college. The one thing about my brothers and I is we're all engineering majors. So we all love math, and we love analyzing things. So we would get done with these games and we would have chats with each other about if we thought we liked it or didn't like it, what parts we liked about it, what we think would make the game better. And we would just kind of pick it apart. And I think eventually we got to the point where we were playing a lot of games and getting to the end and saying, this felt like a mix between this game and this game. This felt like a mix between this game and this game. And eventually I was kind of like, why are all these games feeling sort of similar? And then I think I just kind of started to see it more and more after we had those discussions. And I was like, we played a lot of games that had worker placement, a lot of games that had just like deck building, and a lot of these mechanics that we kept seeing over and over again. And I was kind of like, I really want to make a game that doesn't use any of these mechanics.
Interesting.
And not only that, but something that's really important to me is a game that you can play as many times as you want. And it never gets old. You never want to take it off your shelf. You're never like, okay, I think I've played that to the point where I figured it out. And because in my opinion, it doesn't matter if it's a strategy game, a luck game, whatever kind of game you have, if it never gets old, what else can you ask from that game? You know what I mean? Like if you enjoy it every single time you play it and it never gets old, I don't care what kind of game it is, that game does its job. You don't want to take that game off your shelf. So I wanted to make a game that didn't use any of the traditional like Euro strategy mechanics, but also is a game that would play so differently from game to game and would require you to have a different approach from game to game that you would never want to take it off your shelf. Cool. And I tried to do that the best I can. And I think it turned out pretty well. But
nice. Well, that is quite the ambitious task there.
It is.
But I think you've accomplished that goal from what I've only played it once, so it's hard for me to say, but I definitely it made me want to play it again, which is kind of the first step of creating a game like that. So that's awesome. We've teased it a little bit. Why don't you tell folks about the game and kind of give the elevator pitch and what it includes and a little bit about the theme and all of that.
Yeah, so I do like to start off with the theme because I think the theme kind of draws people in. And if you don't like medieval theme, then that's kind of what this game is. So I've always loved medieval theme, fantasy themes. And the game is about a ruler named King Zarmund, who is the ruler of the Gempire. And I came up with all this to kind of give it a little bit of style and uniqueness. But he's the ruler of the Gempire. And so his capital city is kind of falling apart. He doesn't, there's a lot of things he doesn't like about it, so he's leaving. And so to remedy this, he's chosen 5 cities that are kind of in their early stages, and he's calling the lead architects of these 5 cities into a competition to see who can build a worthy capital. So you are playing the role of the lead architect of your home city, and you are trying to impress King Zarmund. And so for his competition, before you start, King Zarmund makes 3 demands for his city, and he says, I want my city to have this, this, and this. And you don't know what he's going to demand, because his demands come from a deck of 15 cards. And every game you play, you shuffle these cards up and you draw 3 of them and you put the rest in the box. So the city which meets 2 of the 3 of his demands wins the game. So every game you play, the demands are going to be completely different. And there's different ways to win this game, because you only have to get 2 of the 3, which means you have different approaches you can take. And then on top of that, there are going to be 5 technologies that are drawn for each game, and the rest are going to be put in the box. There's 5 technologies out of the 21 that the game has. So again, that a couple of layers of just incredible replayability within those 2, because those combinations put you in so many different situations each game. But this game is about building up your city's population, gold, and culture to give you different strategic benefits to meet these goals. And so each one of those kind of helps you in its own way. And I would say the main mechanics of the game are, the cool part about this game is that everybody gets to play every turn. So there's not really any downtime. Every turn has 3 steps. Somebody rolls these resource dice that have production and science on them. And it doesn't even matter who rolls those, because that result is available for every player. So the first step is somebody rolls those dice. Then everybody has a little dry erase book that folds up that they can use to hide what they're writing. And everybody chooses an action for that round at the same time. And then when everyone's ready, the third step is you just show each other what you did and you resolve it. And then you pass the dice on and you start the next round. So everybody gets to do something every single round. And I thought that was something that really set it apart from most Euro-style games, where you're just waiting for 5 or 10 or 15 minutes for it to come all the way around to your turn, because people want to analyze what's the best thing that I can do. Yeah. But in this game, the turns are just a couple minutes. You're involved in every single one of them. And so I would say the main mechanic is, because you can only do 1 action per turn, most of the time what you're going to be choosing between is, do I take the resources that showed up on the die roll, or do I use the production, which is one of those resources? Do I use the production to try to place blind bids on any number of 3 cards that are out in the middle for everybody to get? So, but you don't know who's doing what. You can see how much production they have, but you don't know what they're doing. You don't know what they're bidding on. You don't even know that they're bidding. So you could bid really high, and then everybody else took resources, and you just overspent. So it's very mind gamey, and it has a little bit of engine building too, with getting these buildings and increasing your population or your culture, your gold, and then also your technologies that I mentioned earlier. Those help you in a lot of different ways from game to game, and really help your engine that way. But the buildings have a slight tableau building kind of mechanism, but really all these kind of fit together into a really neat system that allows you to build your city out in so many different ways to win this game. And I think that's what I really like about it, is the fact that I don't see the winning player taking the same strategy every time, or even close. I see players who are first or last in science who have upgraded their palace or not upgraded their palace, or they have a second row, or they don't, or they played all gold, or they didn't have any gold, So I see it all, and I love that about it.
Yeah, that's very cool. I like the game where you don't, it's not obvious what the winning strategy is, or
yes.
Some games where if you played a lot, you kind of know, okay, this is what I have to do every time in order to even be competitive. And this one, it's really because the game, the end, like the win condition is different every time.
Mm-hmm.
So you can, even if you get good at a certain way of playing the game, it could totally change.
Yeah.
And that was really interesting to see. Another like kind of fun part of the game for me was the bidding, the blind action taking, where you don't even know if someone's bidding or not,
Yes.
which is definitely like something that's a kind of a wrinkle that's different than most games that include bidding, where it's just this is a bidding round, everyone's bidding,
Right.
and but no, some people might not be, and then you're like
Right.
throwing in all this, all this gold or whatever resource it was, I forgot that you used to bid with,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and for nothing. So there is like some cool mind games and kind of trying to figure out what people are doing that's going on
Yeah.
that really sets it apart from other games. That's really cool.
And not to get too far into this, but I love the fact that there's only 3 actions. There's a
Mm,
there are
yeah.
only 3 actions, but you can do them. You can use them to do so many different things. Like, so we mentioned the two is 2 of them are taking the resources or bidding. You can also do a city upgrade in a couple of different ways. But those are the only 3 things you do in this entire game. But you do them, like, you use them for such different things, and you
Mhm.
can even look at other people's cities to figure out which cards they might be bidding on. So, like, you
Yep.
can use the knowledge that you know is how much production they have and which cards out there do you think they want, and you just get to make these mind game decisions based off of this. It's like you have some decent information to make these decisions, but you don't know everything. Only they know what they're doing, and
Totally.
that's what's really fun about it.
Yeah, very cool. So super unique game. Great set of mechanics. I don't think folks have seen this type of game, or at least the way all these mechanics are intertwined with each other. So I think you have something special here. Um, so what kind of what led up to creating this particular game? Like you were talking about, you wanted to use mechanics that you hadn't seen before.
Mm-hmm.
Did you kind of come up with a list of mechanics and then pick a
Mm.
few? When did the theme come in? Just kind of talk through a little bit about the development
Yeah.
and creation of the game.
No, that's a good question. So the first thing I came up with was at a stoplight when I was driving home from work. And it was just the mechanic of, I didn't like, there's so many games that last 2 or 3 hours, these Euro games, and it'll, despite how much strategy it seems like there is in the game, it will really come down to he basically won because he drew that card and everybody knows that's the best card in the game. Or
Mm,
he won because he rolled like he rolled like crazy this game and nobody else could roll worth a darn. So like there's so many games that last so long, and they're good at disguising how much luck is actually in the game.
interesting.
Um, and so the first thing that I came up with was, what if you had a game where the die rolls weren't just your own, they were everybody's. So you roll the dice and now everybody has to make this decision. So everybody's sitting there like, that's a pretty juicy roll. I want all that stuff. But then you're in your mind, you're thinking, so does everybody else. Everybody else wants that stuff. So if I think everybody else wants that bad enough and they're all going to take that stuff, does that mean I can jump in and get some stuff for cheap? And that mind game of like, oh, that would be so thrilling, of like having this action that nobody else knows what I'm doing exactly, and only I know what I'm doing, and everybody else has to read each other's minds to figure out who's taking the stuff, who's bidding, and what are
Yeah,
they bidding on, and how much do I need to bid to outbid them, and it's just a way that keeps everybody engaged really, really well, because everybody gets to choose every single turn.
yeah,
So
that's
that's what
great.
I came up with first, was that mechanism. And then I think I wanted it to be a city builder because I always liked city builders.
Mm,
And so after that, I came up with kind of the general theme of like, you were building out a city to win this king's competition to become the new capital, because it didn't really have a military aspect. There's no attacking each other in this game. So
right.
it wasn't supposed to be like a territory fight or anything like that. So it's kind of more of a friendly city builder, where there's definitely interaction because you're reading the minds of everybody else and paying attention to what you think they want. But there's no interaction to the extent of, I'm just going to destroy your building over there that's giving you 12 gold. Good luck, Matt. So because in my opinion, those games almost always turn into leader bashes where that person's winning, get him. Now he's winning, get him. And so I knew I didn't want that, but I came up with kind of the general theme of that kind of a friendly city builder where you're trying to win a King's competition. And then I started down the road of, okay, so now the buildings that you're getting from the bidding, I want the location to matter, but I also don't want it to be so intense that it's going to slow the flow of the game. So how do I get location to matter where at the same time it's not like people are just going to be sitting there like, okay, where do I put this building on this grid? You know, like where's the best place to put this building? Because that kills the speed of the game. Mm-hmm. So I came up with the rule of the districts where you start off with just one row to put your cards in. You build left and right. And there's only 3 different colors of these cards for population, gold, and culture. But you only get 3 districts. And those are groups of cards of the same color. So you can have 2 active districts going at the same time until you decide it's time for me to get that third benefit, that third attribute. And then you have to decide which color do I cut off? Because I'm going to have to cut off one of these with this 3rd district. Which one do I cut off? Which benefit am I okay with curtailing at this moment? And I think when I came up with that idea, I was like, that's perfect. That has just enough meaning for the location. It has some really interesting strategic decisions with which 2 do you go for first? How long do you build them out? And then at what point do you cut them off? And which one do you cut off? And so then I had to come up with what do the 3 attributes do? And I won't go into that, but had to come up with what do those do? And then I had to come up with can you build more rows than just one? You know, like is there an opportunity for you to build another row so you can that trapped district that you trapped in the middle so that you can build it a little bit more out in the second row? And that's one thing you can do in this game. You can win without a second row. You don't have to build one, but it's an option. And it's cool for me to see the different ways that people build out their cities depending on what the demands are for that game. But all of these things just kind of fell, I wouldn't say they easily fell into place, but it was kind of like I came up with one and I was like, that really makes sense. I knew what I wanted to do with each rule, and I just kept thinking, play devil's advocate to your own ideas. Nah, that doesn't work until you come up with something that really hits it. And then you move on. And I think I actually didn't add the city names into the game until the very end to just kind of add a little bit of style to the game. And by the way, the cities, which I won't say what they're named, but they're on the front of the box in the rule book. But the actual cities will be the kind of the theme for my next 5 games. So there are 5 cities, and I'm going to make a game for each city. Nice. Which is going to kind of be pretty cool. But
cool. I love games that are connected by a similar world
building. Yeah. I really like world building, and so the last thing I did was kind of came up with that cherry on top of like, okay, what am I going to call the king? What am I going? I'm actually going to give people a little bit of ownership and name these cities so that they know which one they're playing as, and they can look on the map and see, oh, I'm playing as that city, and they know where it is in the Gempire. Nice. So. That's kind of the rule, the way that I came up with things, or the order, I guess you were asking.
Yeah, and so there's a lot going on in the game, a lot to consider, and of course you have all of these different win conditions and these technologies. So it sounds like it's a lot to balance or keep in mind as you're developing the game. So I'm just curious how long you've been working on it, and kind of playtesting journey has been like for you.
So. The rules that stoplight incident with this is the mechanic that I want to build this game on. I think there were probably at least 6 months of separation between coming up with that and actually being like, okay, I'm going to actually take this seriously and start building a game out of this. So I think that happened in September 2017, and then there were probably at least 6 months that went by, and then I started really taking it seriously. And then I would say the development of the rules took about 2 years, maybe a little over 2 years, before I stopped changing things. And I wanted to do all of the art myself. I don't know if it was a mixture of pride and just wanting to say that I did it all myself, or if it was partially because I didn't have a whole lot of money at the time, right. And I couldn't pay an artist. And so that was the other way that I could get this done. I wanted to get this done so badly. I was basically willing to do anything to do it.
Yeah.
And so I did my own art, and that took me probably 10 months, because you got to come up with the designs from scratch, and then you got to refine them, and you got to get them to the point where you like them. And it was kind of sad, because even after all that work, I decided to hire an artist eventually anyway, because I went to Gen Con 2021 with the prototype of my art. It was the first edition, and I was in the first exposure hall, and people really loved it. But when you're at Gen Con and you see all the games around you that are just like this amazing, the standard of art is so high, and you're like, there's no way. I've got to find I've got to find an artist to redo this. So I made that tough decision, even though I was technically ready. The game was ready late 2021, but through the process of finding an artist and allowing him to get done redoing it all, which he did an amazing job, by the way. I mean, like, the art in this game is so pretty, and I couldn't have found anybody better. But yeah, that was definitely a hit that I had to get past. And then I think over the past 2 years or so, I've just been, I have it on Tabletop Simulator, inviting as many people to play Tabletop Simulator as possible, going to Gen Con all 3 years now. I just went to my first Origins this year, and I go to my local gaming store. I ask friends, do you have any other friend groups? I travel to other people's places, let them try it. So the last couple of years has been really pushing the in-person demos.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of people play this game.
Great. Yeah, and it shows. I think it feels very well balanced when I played it, and that wasn't too long ago. Mm-hmm. So did you ever consider pitching this to a publisher, or is this always something you just wanted to publish yourself?
That's a good question, because originally, no. Originally, I think when I started out, I was thinking, and this is how much you change as a person when you go through this, right? When you start out, and I was so determined, right? I was like, nothing's going to stop me from finishing this game, because I loved the rule set. I knew it was so replayable, and I loved the unique rule set and how differently you can play it. And I was like, if I can struggle through every step of this process, I was decent at art. Like, growing up, I knew I could do pretty good art. So I was like, if I can struggle through the art and then struggle through the marketing, the networking, the business side, if I can struggle through that, then I can say I've done it all myself, and I also don't have to split my profit with anybody. And because I knew I was willing to do all that stuff, I did. Like, that was my plan the entire time, was self-publishing. And the thing that you learn is you can do all that stuff. I mean, you can, but that doesn't mean you should. And so if I would have sought out an artist way earlier in the process, this wouldn't have taken nearly as long. And now I know, going forward, I know that I'm just going to go to an artist now, before I try to do it myself. But I think that eventually, after you pay an artist, you're like, okay, now I've spent all that money on the art. Like, if I sell this to a publisher now, are they just going to redo the art? Yeah. I just spent, I don't want to disclose how much money I spent on it, but I spent a lot of money on the art. It's like, I don't want to just give it to some publisher and they just throw all that away. And then, you don't even get that large of a cut if you sell to a publisher. And right. So, I think because I knew that I was willing to take it further into the process, I was like, I was so passionate about this game. I was like, this isn't a game that I want to let go right after I get the rules done. This is a game that I want to carry through all the way, because this is my life's biggest project, and I believe in it so much that I don't want to hand it off to somebody. And then this is funny, because I actually got to the point later. This was probably not even a year ago. I was actually considering finding a publisher. And this was like November last year. And I had people telling me, man, it would be a really good idea if you found a publisher. What I told them was, yeah, I'll probably get one. I just entered this award competition with my game, and I just want to see what happens with that. And then after that's done, I'll start looking for publishers. That was more like an excuse of me to just tell them, like, okay, like, I didn't really want to do it, but I was kind of listening to them. I actually did consider it for a long time. Well, that was the Ion Award, and it ended up winning. And so then it was kind of like, oh man, okay, so maybe I don't go to a publisher, because that was a big accomplishment that I can carry forward with, my own name on it. And at that point, I felt like I had enough going for it that it wasn't worth it for me to go to a publisher. And this is after the Ion Award. I had one of the judges, who is a publisher, talk to me and say, I'm interested in publishing your game. He said, do you want to have a call? And I said, yes. We had a call. I showed him everything that I had done. I showed him my pre-launch page that had, at the time, like 450 followers or something like that. And he was like, you have 450 followers already? He's like, I wouldn't even feel right taking this from you at this point. He's like, I want to be honest with you. I'm not trying to rip you off. I want to be honest. You've made your bed at this point. You have made it so much further than anybody else seeking a publisher that you need to go and self-publish this. He was like, if you get an offer from anybody else, you better make sure that it's darn good, right, to accept it, because you have made it really far on your own. So he was like, I hate to tell you that I probably won't publish your game now, but it's because I'm telling you, you need to finish this off yourself, because I think that's the path that you set for yourself. So that kind of put it to bed. After that, I was like, probably not going to look for a publisher at that point.
Yeah, I mean, you'd put so much time and money into the art and building a following and stuff, and that's what a publisher does. So if it's already done,
right,
then what good is a publisher going to do at that point, other than
I mean, they have a larger marketing capacity. They have the channels to market really well, and that's one thing I don't have. But if you're only going to get 5% of your own game by going through a publisher, you better hope that they're going to get you 20 times the sales of what you would get without them. So I don't know if I will or not, but that's the decision that I've made, is just to carry it through myself and hope for the best.
So speaking of marketing, let's jump over to that side of things. Other than, conventions and play testing, what have you been doing to get the word out about your game?
That is also a good question. So I recently teamed up with Crowdfunding Nerds, which you may have heard of them before. Andrew Lowen, who designed Deliverance, I think. Really great group. I had a call with them. They were really straightforward, really transparent. They're just really easy to work with. I mean, they made it so easy. I can't recommend them enough, honestly. They have you pay up front. They don't have you pay for like royalties, so you know exactly how much you're paying up front. That's so nice.
Nice.
They have a really good reputation. They've made it really, really easy. Now, before that, I didn't do like any digital marketing. Mostly all my marketing was on my socials, updating my socials when I could. And honestly, I mean, I know you already mentioned this, but in person. And this is one thing that I think I've approached this differently, a lot differently than most designers / publishers, I guess, would or have. And that is, I haven't done nearly as much digital marketing. And that's for a couple of different reasons that I don't want to get into, that were kind of out of my control. But most of my marketing has been personal. And I actually, there's a lot of pros to doing personal. So like, because here's the thing, you can have a whole bunch of people sign up for your game that just saw an ad, and they just saw an ad and they were like, ooh, that kind of looks neat. They looked at it for maybe 2 seconds and clicked on the link to go sign up for the Kickstarter. But when you hear the numbers of these conversion rates of, going into the Kickstarter, only 10% or maybe even less of your followers are actually going to back this thing. Well, that's because most of these games' followers came from just advertising. There was nothing personal about it. They have no reason to really follow through with that backing. So with me, I have 533 followers, I think, right now, which is not a large number compared to a lot of games going into their Kickstarter. But out of those 533 followers, I would say that over 400 of them have actually played the game. That's incredible. So you're talking about people who played the game and then followed after. They don't follow after if they don't want to buy it after playing it. If they played it and didn't want to buy it, they wouldn't sign up, right? So I am expecting my chunk of followers to have a very high conversion rate because they have firsthand experience with the game and they know they want it. They know why they want it. So I don't have a large chunk of followers, but my chunk of followers who have firsthand experience is large compared to, I think, most games that go into Kickstarter. That's the one promising thing that I'm hoping. That I'm kind of optimistic about that.
That's a really good point. Is not all followers are created equal, and sometimes we get into the rut of just thinking that it's a numbers game, and just the more follower numbers I get, no matter how I get them, the better chance I'm going to have of succeeding. And you hit on a really important point that it's really more about the quality than the quantity when it comes to those people, because the better relationship you can have with them,
yes,
exponentially more likely that they are to actually follow through with backing it. It's like they're all, all your friends and not just, numbers or people who just clicked on a button because it looked interesting.
Right.
That's really cool.
It's a slower grind, right? Like having people actually play it is so much slower. It's a lot slower, but you have much more loyal backers and people who have actually played it. I mean, and so what I do is when I go to conventions, I don't leave myself any free time. And that sounds miserable, and it kind of is. I still wish I could go to Gen Con and enjoy it a little bit. But, Gen Con is like my opportunity to have as many people play this as possible. So I'll run 20 sessions. I'll run literally 40 hours of sessions in 3.5 days. Just as many people as I can have played this game, that's what I want. Even if I'm borderline dead when I go back home because I'm exhausted, right? So, but that's kind of like your yearly opportunity to get this in front of 100 people, and I think having people play the game is the best way to get loyal backers. And it might be slow, but I think it's really going to help me in the campaign when it launches.
Very cool. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. But I'm on board with you on that. I totally agree. So leading up to the Kickstarter, what else are you doing? Are you, sending demos out to reviewers and previewers and that kind of thing? Doing podcast interviews. I mean, you're doing this one, but what other kind of, stuff like that are you doing leading up to the launch?
So I've always had the philosophy of I want to leave people happy. You have to distinguish your project. And this is kind of unrelated, but I'm willing to spend extra money to make my backers, my potential supporters, to make them happy and to make my project stand out. So when I go to Gen Con, every year I give out prizes to everybody. after the game every single year. I mean, like one year it was these mouse pads. This year it was these little bags with D&D dice in them. But they all have Gempire on them. And so and I think I actually gave out dice trays too. But and yes, it was a lot of money to buy that stuff. But now people have that thing that they can bring home. They'll see it again. It reminds them of the game. And this is one thing that this is a reason why I think this works, is because I will still get reviews I'm still getting reviews from Origins on my BGG page. That Origins was 3 months ago.
Right.
So, so I guarantee that some of these people are seeing this stuff that I gave them, and they're being like, "Oh yeah, Gempire, I remember liking that game at Origins. I should really leave that guy a review." So making people happy in that way, even if it costs you the extra money, is totally worth it, because it distinguishes your project from everybody else's. They're going to play dozens of games at these cons, but if they leave with something that's like, "Oh, that's really cool, you gave that to me for free," that's the one, that's something that puts yours over the top, especially if they enjoyed it. So I guess building off of that, I bought a lot of review copies. Actually bought 100 review copies.
Wow.
Which was a lot of money, because with 100 sounds like a lot, but when you're talking, unit price of 100, it's still pretty high, because 100 is still 100. Yeah, totally. So that was a lot of money to put down on it. But I have so many copies that I don't have to pick and choose. Like, I don't have to be like, I'll get back with you if this other person doesn't get back with me. And, because I have so many reviewers that are a little ambiguous with their answers, or they don't answer at all. And I'd rather just be like, "You're interested? Yeah, sure. Take a copy. You can even keep it afterward. Don't even worry about sending it out to somebody else. Just keep it." And so I'm willing to spend the extra money to just be able to send these reviewers copies and just be like, "Yeah, you liked it? Keep the game. I have so many copies. Just keep it." And they really like that, that they don't have to go through like shipping it out to somebody else. And especially if they like the game, they like to be able to keep it. So, there's been a lot of review channels that I've reached out to. I don't know if you want me to name any specific ones.
You don't need to, just kind of get a general sense of
I've probably reached out to, I would say 15 to 20 YouTube channels, and about 35 to 40 Instagram reviewers. So I have a decent amount of them already sent out to people. But yeah, a lot of them are waiting until last minute, which is a little stressful on me, because when you're building your Kickstarter page and you want these quotes from people, you can't pull quotes from people who haven't reviewed it yet. Right. So that makes it a little hard. But I understand why they want to do it. They want to put the video out when it's relevant. So I understand that side of it. But I've sent my game out to probably between Instagram and YouTube, probably at least 60 to 70 channels. So
nice. Impressive.
And a lot of them are smaller, but they still have their own audience, and they can still get eyes on it.
Totally.
And that's why I bought the copies. So
very cool. So you mentioned a little bit about being on Instagram and that kind of thing. What has been your approach to social media in general? What kind of stuff do you share? How do you interact with people? That kind of thing.
Oh, okay. So I haven't. Okay, so I started off. I think most of my attention was on Twitter, and I actually built up a pretty good following on Twitter. I even got into the TTRPG group with D&D people. Yeah, made a lot of friends in that crowd, because this game kind of has that feel to it. I mean, right. People who play D&D, they either like the story, they like the fantasy, they like the medieval setting. They also like, I think, and the people who like other aspects of it, like the numbers, right? They like I get to manipulate my stats here, and I get to decide what I'm strong at and what I'm weak at. And that's in Gempire too. You get to decide, do I go strong for population, gold, culture, science, whatever. So I think it struck a chord with that crowd. And I made a lot of really neat friends.
Cool.
And so then I would say my Instagram and my Facebook, I haven't been as strong on, and maybe I should be, because I've heard that Facebook is actually really good for building a crowd. But I've started to post a little bit more on Facebook and Instagram, but the majority of my interaction was on Twitter, and then I moved kind of to Discord. So I started joining a lot of Discords of different review channels and interacting with their group, and this is a big one. So this takes so much effort, and it really takes a mental toll on you, because you join these groups because you have to network, right? Like, if you don't network, your game doesn't come out. And then what? You spent 5 years to make a game that didn't come out, that nobody's enjoying? No, you want it to come out and make people happy. So you join these channels and you start interacting with these people, and you know that part of the reason is to build a relationship so that eventually they might look at your game. But you don't want it to feel like that, because you meet so many awesome people and you start interacting with them and they become your friends. But it's also exhausting, because you're doing this for 20 channels at one time. And you're like, there's no possible way as one person that you can keep up with that. So it takes a mental toll on you, an emotional toll on you, because you don't feel like you can interact with these people as much as they deserve.
Interesting.
Because they're so friendly, and a lot of them want to help you, and not really sure how to. And but yeah, there's been a few channels in particular that I've interacted with a lot, and a couple of them made that leap. We're taking Gempire on, and that just meant the world. And honestly, once you dip your feet into that, they start telling people about it. That's what you really need. You just need a start. You need people who know other people who are willing to take that leap.
Yeah.
And so, so a lot of it has been Discord, and I've made a lot of really neat friends on Discord. A lot of supporters, like a lot of people in these channels that aren't the reviewers, right? Just like viewers of these channels now know who I am, and now they've interacted with me, and I probably have a few dozen backers just from viewers of these channels that I interact with on a regular basis. So, yeah, but it is hard, because it's kind of like you don't have enough time. You feel really bad because you're not able to dedicate as much time to building these relationships as you would like to. And you basically got to decide, like, okay, this day I'm gonna keep up with these channels, and this day I'm gonna keep up with these channels. And as somebody who appreciates friendship so much, it's just hard to keep jumping from place to place and not give people the attention that you think they deserve. So
That's a really good point. And that's something not a lot of people talk about, is the fact that you're trying to get your game in front of all these people. And so just in essence, you're building relationships with people because you're trying to talk to them and get them to know your game. And of course, there's a transactional nature at the beginning. It's like, I'm doing this because I'm trying to get the word out about my game. But like you said, you run into all these people and they're so nice and they're so cool and they're so fun. And you want to get to know about the stuff they're doing as well. And then it becomes like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden I have like dozens and dozens and dozens of friends that I genuinely want to keep up with and help and learn about and stuff like that. And you just physically and mentally can't do
it.
And
it's like it gets to you, because you're like, I have a whole lot of friends, but then at the same time, you don't actually have like many friends that like are really close, right? Like those friends that you can talk to every day about work or whatever.
Call on for like a big favor or something.
Yeah. Right. So it does get to you, and you have to be ready for it. You just gotta, one thing, you just have to be grateful. I mean, like, the moment that you start thinking about what you don't have in life, and the negative things, you just start spiraling down. You just have to remain grateful for all the friendships that you do have. Remain grateful for having a brain that is even able to do all of this stuff. and just the opportunity to meet all these people and to actually bring an idea that you're so passionate about to life. So you just have to remind yourself of that every once in a while. That's what keeps me going.
Yeah, totally. I mean, creating a game is a gift, and and the fact that people are willing to hear about it and show interest in it is just, blows my mind every time it happens. And
yes,
you just got to remember
it
that.
makes me emotional at some points. Yeah.
Cool. Well, we're about out of time, so I want to jump into the numbers real quick. If you can let us know, start with Kickstarter, how many people are following your Kickstarter page at this moment? Just to let people know, we're recording this on a Thursday, and you're going to launch, I believe, next week on
Tuesday. Hopefully, if I can get my page.
Yeah. We were talking about that before I hit record.
I think I will, but it's going to take a lot of work.
Feels like there's always something more that you got to do with that page. That's what I hear from people when I interview them, is like, God, I thought it was done, and then all of a sudden I just thought of a bunch of more sections I need to add. Or like you said, you were saying, I saw all these other Kickstarters that just launched and they have all these things. Now I got to add all these things.
Yep, that's exactly what I'm going through right now. That's why I took off tomorrow. But it looked like I have 535, which is a couple more than when we started. So that's good. There was a video that came out today on a YouTube channel that got a pretty good amount of views. So I think I got a few from there.
Cool.
And then I think in the next day or two, there's supposed to be a preview coming out on the Dice Tower.
Ooh.
So nice. that will hopefully get me a decent amount of followers. So
how about do you have an email list? And if so, how many folks are on there?
Yeah. So I have combined email lists. So there's there is the Gemtime Games website that I made a long time ago that I was updating. And then there is the Gempire Zarmund's Demand site that Crowdfunding Nerds made for me. And so I think between those two, I think I have about 90. I know that's not a whole lot, but I think I have more people signing up for my Kickstarter page after they played it rather than... Because in my opinion, that's a little bit more important because I want them to know when the launch is.
Yeah, totally.
So
sounds like you've had that page up for a while.
Yes, the Kickstarter page, I've had it up for probably almost 2 years.
Oh wow, yeah.
So
great.
Yeah,
that's something that's advice I give to all other game designers and going to Kickstarter, is get that Kickstarter page up as soon as you possibly can, because
and get people talking on your Boardgame Geek page. That's a big thing too. You would not believe how many people sit down at a con and you ask them, was there a particular reason you chose to play Gempire at Origins or Gen Con? And they'll go, I looked it up on Boardgame Geek and I saw that it had a really good rating. At least half.
Interesting.
At least in my experience, at least half of people mentioned they looked it up on Boardgame Geek and saw that it had a good rating. So that is very important to get that page up and get people reviewing and talking about it, posting pictures, things like that.
How about social? Just kind of maybe aggregate off the top of your head, kind of follower numbers you have.
Followers, 400, about 1,800.
Nice.
I think I have about 1250 or something on Twitter, or almost 1,300, and then I have almost 400 on Instagram, and then I have like maybe 75 to 80 on Facebook.
And we were talking about you were talking about how, you kind of focused on Twitter and you feel like you should be focusing on some of the other platforms. Mm-hmm. And I always feel like, I've been in marketing for a while, and this is advice I give. And this is advice that I see bear fruit in the gaming world for self-publishing, is you should just stick with the platform and you're comfortable with, and just go hard on that. It's better, I think, than trying to spread yourself thin across all the platforms and not really getting any traction on any of them, because like you said, it's you only have so much time to meet people and make friends and make connections, and to try to learn the ins and outs of all these different platforms and build a following is way hard for just one person to do. So I like the idea that you just kind of stuck to Twitter, you built a following there, you built lots of good connections there. And then, as the game is about to launch, then of course you want presence on all of the places, but just going hard on one platform, I think is really smart. And sounds like that did well for you because you got lots of followers on Twitter. So that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, Twitter is not, not as big as it used to be anymore, but
yeah, not even called Twitter anymore. So,
it's not even called Twitter anymore, right?
It's crazy. Yeah, so it is a good idea to kind of have a presence on all the different platforms because you never know when one's going to go away. But I think it makes sense to just focus on the ones that you're familiar with and that you can just naturally spend the most time on. So that's great. Cool. So I think that's about it. We'll kind of touch on some of the other things when we do the second part of the interview.
Yeah.
After the campaign is over. So good luck. Looks like I hope things go well. It's a great game, so I really want to see it get made. And I wish you nothing but the best of luck on your campaign.
Thank you, Matt. This has been great. Great conversation.
Yeah,
really,
it has
questions.
And it's I love hearing the different approaches people take to this and how there's no one way to go about doing this, and you can be successful in your own way by doing your own thing. So I look forward to celebrating your success on our second interview.
What are you going to do with yours? Interview yourself? When you're ready to launch?
I'm actually thinking about that. I probably will just go through all the questions I ask other people and just answer them myself when the time comes. Yeah. Or maybe I'll have someone else ask questions for me. I don't know. It's still a little bit ways off. So
we can reverse roles. I'll ask you the questions.
I like it. Cool. So where could people follow along if they catch this interview either before you launch or after you launch or during the campaign?
Yeah, just either follow the Kickstarter page. I'm still planning to launch on the 26th around noon Eastern. Or, you can follow my Twitter at gemtimegames.com. I think I'm also Instagram at gemtimegames.com. My Facebook page is Gemtime Games LLC, I think. So those are all the socials, normally the socials that I have. You can also email me anytime at gemtimegames@gmail.com. And also, I do have a Discord for Gempire. So if you join the Gempire Discord, I set games up on Tabletop Simulator all the time. You can play with me. I'll set up a game with you just to play it. If you want to try it before you play it, I'm happy to do that anytime. Anytime that I'm available to do that, I will play a game with you. So contact me any of those socials or by email, and I'd be happy to do that anytime.
Awesome. We'll definitely take him up on that because it's a lot of fun. And let me know, and I'll jump in too if you're listening to this and you want to get a game with the three of us.
Yeah,
we could definitely make that happen. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching this episode of KickSaga. Stick around for the follow-up interview. And if you like this and want to hear more, see more interviews like this one, go ahead and click that subscribe button below. Click that bell icon to get notified of future episodes. And we'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.